Good afternoon. I am David Lindstrom, Professor and Chair of the Department of Sociology. On behalf of the faculty and staff of the Department of Sociology at Brown University, I welcome our graduating students, their families and friends to this part of the Brown graduation ceremony. This is the 248th commencement at Brown University. The Department of Sociology shares in this rich and festive tradition. Sociology first appeared in the Brown curriculum in 1891, which now marks 125 years of sociology at Brown. The first sociology PhD degree was awarded in 1909, making this the 107th anniversary of granting diplomas in sociology at Brown University. First, let me introduce to the Department of Sociology faculty. Will the members of the sociology faculty please stand as I call your names? Zhen Xiao Chen, John Logan, Mark Suchman, Jose Itzikson, Scott Frickel, Greg Elliott, Michael Kennedy, Margot Jackson, Leah Van Way, Patrick Heller, Michael White, Dennis Hogan, and Carrie Spearin. I also want to introduce and thank the Department of Sociology staff for their tremendous assistance to the students graduating today and for making all of the arrangements for this wonderful occasion. Amanda Figgins and Shane Martin. So we're streaming live this ceremony, and Joan Picard, who's not with us today. I will now turn the program over to Professor Margot Jackson, the Director of Graduate Studies, who will announce our MA degree recipients, followed by the PhD degree recipients. Their degrees were officially conferred at the graduate school commencement ceremony this morning. Now the Department of Sociology recognizes them and their accomplishments in this ceremony.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Margot Jackson, as you have heard, and it is my honor and privilege today to recognize those students receiving their MA, for the first time the MSAR, and the PhD degrees in sociology. And together with your families, your friends, your mentors, I congratulate you on this pretty tremendous accomplishment of, most importantly perhaps, a done thesis for the majority of you, which has culminated in years of blood, sweat, tears, hopefully a little bit of enjoyment along the way. It's always meaningful to celebrate a group of graduates for lots of different reasons, both because it provides an opportunity to reflect on your accomplishments, of course, but also, especially for the faculty, maybe it provides a really clear sense of the passing of time. In my time as a professor, I've always found it both refreshing, also a bit humbling, perhaps a little bit depressing, to see that the entering students all stay the same age, and everyone else, or at least me, gets older along the way. Over the last several years, it's been a pleasure to watch all of you develop as researchers, teachers, mentors, and the group receiving graduate degrees today has received awards from prestigious institutions and foundations. They've engaged in research that really spans the topical spectrum, with projects focusing on employment patterns, the integration of Muslim immigrants, the formation of racial identity, inequalities in the medical profession, just to name a few topics. Our students have conducted research in Pakistan, China, Palestine, just to name a few places. Their research employs the full spectrum of sociological tools, ranging from immersive ethnographic approaches to life history interviews, to historical analysis, to quasi-experimental statistical methodology, and sometimes multiple methods in the same project. As I said, today's graduates have received distinguished research awards from the National Science Foundation, the American Sociological Association, the Brown Graduate School, and many, many other organizations. They've published peer-reviewed research articles and even books, given lectures to academic audiences, shared their work more broadly with the academic community as well as with the community and public at large. They've taught and mentored students in the classroom and beyond, and developed their own pedagogies and really have worked to balance what is the academic trifecta of research, teaching, and service, broadly defined. And perhaps most importantly for them, especially our doctoral students, they're moving on to exciting new professional opportunities. And for many of our master's students, they're staying here in Maxey Hall to continue the blood, sweat, and tears. So today we celebrate you for your efforts, for your accomplishments. We send you our very best wishes as you either embark on next steps, whether here or elsewhere, and we look forward to following your developing careers. So I will begin with our students who are receiving the master's degree. And graduates, as I call your name, please come up to be acknowledged and receive a small gift from the department. So beginning with the Masters of Arts in Sociology, Hui Carvalho. Svenja Kopiciak. Thomas W. Marlowe. Saeda Q. Masood. John M. Nelson. Maria C. Ortega. Chantel F. Pfeiffer. Rebecca Wong. And last but not least, Amanda C. Zagami. And we have our inaugural candidate this year for the Masters of Science in Social Analysis and Research, Scott M. Schubert. So continuing with our doctoral degrees in sociology for the PhD, I'll read the names of even the students who aren't here today and a little bit about each of our students. So beginning with Dr. Tatiana Andia. Tatiana is unable to join us today, but she receives her PhD this year for her dissertation entitled Bureaucrats Against the State, The Making of Pharmaceutical Policy in Latin America, which was chaired by Nitsan Chorev. Tatiana is beginning a position as assistant professor of sociology at Los Andes Universities in Bogota, Colombia. So we can honorary clap for her. Dr. Carita L. Brown. Stay there. Yeah. So, Carita came to Brown from the private sector, and she was drawn to a PhD in sociology because of the breadth of our discipline, she says. As she says, quote, "If there are two or more people in the room, it's sociological." Carita's work reflects her rich multi-method and multidisciplinary training, as well as her commitment to public sociology. Earlier today, Carita was awarded her PhD for her dissertation entitled Before They Were Diamonds, The Intergenerational Migration of Kentucky's Coal Camp which was chaired under the supervision of Jose Itzigson. Carita's work examines the history of an African American community in a mining town in eastern Kentucky. As Professor Itzigson remarks, her dissertation is a superb piece of scholarship that reconstructs in vivid detail the identity and experiences of migration, community, diaspora, and the effects, the color line and racism in the lived experiences of the communities she studied. Carita's dissertation is also a model for public sociology. She created a participatory archive, and she has also curated an exhibition that is currently on display at the Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice here at Brown. So you can check it out before you leave. Carita recalls fond memories of her time in the basement, and you will recognize a recurring theme here, of our Population Studies and Training Center, where she chatted with her friends about her budding dissertation topic. This summer, she will join the faculty at UCLA as an assistant professor of sociology. Congratulations. And I just want to say that when you come up, you all have to give me a hug too, because even though I'm standing at the podium. Dr. David M. Siplett, who's unable to join us today, but he receives his PhD this year for his dissertation entitled Movements from the Margins, Advocacy for Justice in International Climate Change Governance, which was chaired by Timmons Roberts. Earlier this year, Dave began a position as an assistant professor of environmental studies at the University of Colorado, Boulder. So congratulations, Dave, wherever you are. Dr. William Hamude. William came to Brown as an experienced researcher at Bizret University, a Palestinian university in the West Bank. Her arrival in the first semester, or for the first semester of graduate school, was delayed pretty substantially by about 8 weeks because of visa complications. And during these 8 weeks, William did all of her reading and writing assignments for every first-year class. And as Dennis Hogan, William's dissertation chair, says, quote, this intellectual independence and determined approach demonstrated William's entire graduate career. Today, William received her dissertation for a project entitled Reproducing the Citizenry, Reproduction and the Palestinian Quasi-State Building Project. William's dissertation examined how family factors, the Palestinian quasi-state institutions, and healthcare systems interacted to produce smaller families. She says that she was drawn to sociology for the various tools and theoretical insights it offered her, especially in her goal of understanding social processes and the social dimensions and determinants of health. Some of her fondest memories, I said there was a recurring theme here, are from her time in the basement of the Population Studies and Training Center, surrounded by what she says were her inspirational colleagues and friends. William will return to the Institute for Community and Public Health at Bizret University as an assistant professor, and will work to establish a population program there. Congratulations. Dr. Tanya M. Jenkins. Tanya came to Brown with a long-standing interest in the medical profession and thought that sociology would give her the tools necessary to understand why and how the profession is organized the way it is. And that's exactly what she's done as a PhD student. Tanya's dissertation, titled Doctoring with Inequality, Status Separation, and the Medical Profession, and chaired by Susan Short, is an ambitious, multi-year and multi-method qualitative analysis of 2 hospitals that examines occupational inequality among medical residents. Drawing on almost 3 years of ethnographic research, in-depth interview data, focus groups, she compares residency programs at a community hospital and a university hospital in order to illuminate status hierarchies among medical residents. Tanya's approach is motivated by the observation that while nearly 50% of US medical residents were trained abroad, there is a much smaller fraction of foreign-trained medical school graduates in US residency programs. So we can think about this the next time we interact with a provider. With this puzzle as her starting point, Tanya sets out to reveal the individual and structural bases for differentiation among medical residents. I've also worked with Tanya as a member of her dissertation committee, and it's been a pleasure to watch her scholarship develop. Strangely, or perhaps not, Tanya has some fun memories from a basement. I couldn't believe the consistency of this year's memories. This time, Maxey Hall, right behind us, where she and her friend and fellow student Ju Young blew a fuse on a cold winter's day after plugging in too many space heaters. I don't know what that says about us as well, sorry. Tanya recently began a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Chicago in the Department of Sociology and is supported by the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. Congratulations. Dr. Megan E. Kallman. Megan receives her 3rd degree in sociology today, having come to the discipline as an undergraduate at Smith College and receiving a master's degree along the way at the University of Chicago, right? Megan's experiences as a PhD student have been rich and varied. In addition to her own dissertation research, she's done field work in India, which she says she especially enjoyed, taught her own course here at Brown, and taught or teaches, maybe still, in Rhode Island state prisons. Her dissertation is titled Bureaucratized Morality, Professionalization, Institutional Cynicism, and Social Commitment in the Peace Corps, and was chaired by Mark Suchman. As Mark says, quote, Megan's dissertation is a rich multi-method study of the US Peace Corps, focusing on the complex intersection between the lived experiences of Peace Corps volunteers, the organizational challenges of the Peace Corps as a US government agency, and the historical evolution of the larger field of international development. Her findings have far-reaching implications for understanding and managing international institutions in a number of fields, and they shed new light on the interplay between social movements and social change, activism and altruism, organizations and professions, and globalization and development. I hope you agree with that characterization. Megan has accepted a postdoctoral fellowship here at Brown, so she'll still be with us for the coming year. Congratulations, Megan. And last but not least, Dr. Heather F. Rendell. Heather came to Brown and to sociology because, she says, of an interest in understanding the social impacts of environmental change. She says that a sociological lens has given her the theoretical and methodological tools to understand how households make livelihood decisions in the context of climate change, natural resource depletion, and socioeconomic development. She received her PhD today for her dissertation, Hydropower and the Dynamics of Displacement, Forced Migration and Agricultural Livelihoods in the Brazilian Amazon, chaired by Leah Van Wy. As Leah remarks, Heather took full advantage of her time at Brown to learn formally and informally from a wide range of faculty. This shows in how her work takes seriously questions of socioeconomic development and inequality, as well as providing sophisticated analyses of migration and environmental change. Heather's dissertation shows the sometimes contradictory impacts of the displacement of farmers during the construction of the world's 3rd largest hydroelectric dam. Families experience the disruptions of moving and sometimes end up in crowded and expensive cities, but they also improve their economic standard of living and can invest in new crops and businesses that they couldn't have done without the compensation for displacement. Heather credits her involvement in the Population Studies and Training Center here at Brown for many things, including helping attend conferences, go on productive and, she says, unforgettable research trips to Brazil. Perhaps most importantly, she even credits that center with helping her find a husband. Though I'm not sure if they first met in the basement. Okay, first floor. We've moved up from the basement. She'll continue to develop her interest in environmental change and development in her new postdoctoral fellowship at the National Socio-Environmental Synthesis Center, where she will study the impact of climate change on education in several countries in Africa. Congratulations, Heather. Okay, well that concludes our formal celebration of the graduate students. I know that I speak for all of us, faculty, staff, everyone, your family and friends, when I say that we'll miss you. We wish you many, many great successes in your future careers, and for a lot of you, we get to keep seeing you, so we'll continue to wish you lots of success. And please come back and visit us. Congratulations all.
Thank you so much, Margot, and congratulations to all the students earning their graduate degrees today. Professor Michael Kennedy, the undergraduate concentration advisor, will now introduce students who are being awarded undergraduate degrees. This is the official Brown University ceremony for the award of undergraduate degrees. Michael?
I have prepared remarks, but some people talk about feeling the burn. Some people talk about feeling the love. But I'm feeling the soch right now. But don't tell people outside that tent, or else we won't have a big enough tent next year. So it is my honor and pleasure to recognize those graduating with their Bachelor of Arts and of Science in Sociology and Social Analysis. As I say your name, please come to the podium to accept your diploma and stand next to Carrie. But let me say a few things first. Are you surprised? We are going to miss, I am going to miss this class of 2016. They are certainly distinguished with their immediate and longer-term destinations in mind. They leave our university with a set of critical thinking skills, agility in evidentiary reasoning, and a breadth of substantive knowledge that is characteristic of our discipline. But they are more than a typical collection of undergraduate sociologists, especially for the ways in which they have been able to articulate their academic work with questions of community justice and personal commitment. Their critical spirit and their sociological imagination radiate and have been truly central to the transformation of this university and of our department over the course of the past year in particular. These graduates have made sociology and their liberal arts education truly their own. They have taken what this university has to offer and channeled their mind, heart, and soul in ways that make their concentration advisors, Carrie Spearin and me, and all of our faculty deeply proud. You, their family and friends, also have reason to be proud, I suspect, not only because of how special your graduate is to you, but for how much respect and distinction they have earned in the eyes of their peers and their teachers. I am the luckiest guy in the room, though, because I got to meet with them every morning 16 times out of the year, where we had Dunkin' Donuts, and you know, they woke up with me. Well, that doesn't sound right. But Those were great mornings, I have to say. So we are going to miss you, our graduates. That is, until we read your next tweet, see your next Instagram, or dance with you next year at Campus Dance. And then we will really smile, just as we will now smile and maybe hold our applause, but I don't know, we're feeling so much love today, I don't think we can stop ourselves, as you receive your diplomas. So now the procession shall begin, receiving their Bachelor of Arts in Sociology. Jocelyn L. Castor. Honors. Jocelyn wrote an honors thesis entitled Leaders Among Leaders, a case study on the demographics of Brown University's undergraduate organizational student leaders, with Margot Jackson as her advisor and Mark Suchman as her reader. Margot celebrates Jocelyn's terrific planning and organizational skills as she designed a survey in plenty of time to get a good response rate and also do a fine analysis. She's also part of a Southern California contingent, I understand, among our sociology seniors. But Jocelyn has really extended herself beyond her origins, aided by a trip to Cape Town en route, to embrace sociology's critical potentials. Her thesis was grounded in her concerns for diversity's expression among our nation's leaders and among those future leaders being developed here at Brown. In reading Jocelyn's thesis, I do feel like I have a hint of the kind of leadership our country will enjoy in the decades to come. And I do feel better. Thank you, Jocelyn, and congratulations. So just so you know, I never presume a hug, okay? Aaron M. Cohey, honors. Aaron wrote an honors thesis entitled Cultural versus Economic Capital, the Burning Man Case Study. I had the honor to be that thesis advisor. Lisa DiCarlo was its reader, but our PhD recipient, Megan Kallman, was the most special advisor you could imagine. Before I learned so much about Burning Man from Aaron, I learned about Aaron as a terrific theorist and practitioner of social innovation. I remember talking with her about how music festivals can shape social change. I also know from the Swearer Center and their social innovation initiative that she is an invaluable member of that team, and I don't know if they can think about continuing on without you. But as I anticipate myself learning more from that center in the years to come, I am going to be wishing that I took greater advantage of Aaron's presence on campus. And so therefore, since I failed in that endeavor, I'm going to hope that you're going to allow me to contact you in the years to come. Yeah? Okay, so thank you very much. And I can now offer you... Daniel A. Echevarria. Danny developed his capstone around gentrification in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and the 421A program. He was concerned to identify who has, quote, the right to the city. That capstone was supported in part through a prestigious Royce Fellowship Danny won earlier in his career at Brown. This is an extraordinary capstone reflecting so many layers of knowledgeability. He fuses his deep ethnography in the city with the kind of critical imagination Danny has also cultivated here at Brown and in our surrounding communities and abroad. I had the great pleasure to have read the papers he wrote during his study abroad in Cameroon. His sociology radiated. But what shines just as brightly is Danny's generosity and care for others. Those deeply moving qualities have moved me over these last years and many others. His coming year is a meaningful extension of that sociological imagination and public embrace, as he will be interning at Rikers Island, working in their juvenile programming division. Congratulations, and thank you, Danny. We would normally be welcoming Everett E. Justice Finger to the stage. He wrote a wonderful capstone entitled Identity Dissociation, Expanding the Foundation, but he is celebrating his undergraduate degree in urban studies today. So good job, Everett. Jada E. Flake honors. Jada wrote an honors thesis entitled Suicide Amongst Black Children, How Black Families Communicate When We Talk About Suicide. Carrie Spearin chaired that thesis, and Paget Henry was its reader. Each of our students writes something meaningful for their capstone and thesis. But I think my fellow students will agree that Jada's had a depth and measure of profound connection with people that moved us all. Her radical empathy, in combination with her terrific intellectuality, left us all in a profound state of quiet reflection during the conference in which she presented her work. Following the proper moments of silence, the conference participants began to speak, much as I imagined her thesis research partners were moved to speak and reflect in her presence, in the presence of her gentle but probing questions. Jada's invitation to be introspective and sharing with others is a great gift to any who get to spend time with her. Those who get to learn from Jada in the coming year as she teaches English in Rwanda are most fortunate. I know, because of how much I myself have learned from Jada over the course of this past year. I am enormously grateful. Thank you and congratulations. Shannon A. Frost, honors. Shannon wrote an honors thesis entitled Athlete Predispositions, a case study of the political preferences of student athletes at Brown University. I had the good fortune to be her advisor and Carrie Spearin her reader. Each year, sociology concentrators seem to study the student-athlete community at Brown, and each year I learn much. Indeed, I wish the university could learn even more and commission our department and our students to do a sociology of the student-athlete community to figure better ways to recognize their needs in university practice. This year, I learned about the distinctions of that community's politics in a fashion I never previously appreciated, thanks to Shannon's careful work. Be sure to ask her about it. But I also want to say Shannon has herself been a leader in our university's volleyball community and a captain of the team this year. When I attended one game, it wasn't hard for me to pick out Shannon's closest fans. Are they out here? You can see why it's not hard to pick them out. I want to be on their team for what I saw in that volleyball game. Because if you're on the opposing team, you lose. And I think we have all won with Shannon as a sociology concentrator, writing this thesis, and being a member of our senior seminar. Thank you so much. Congratulations. I remembered. Justice A. Gaines. Justice's capstone project was entitled Activism's Price, the Commitment and Costs of Undergraduates Making Social Change. If I were naming that capstone, I might have added one more C to that subtitle. It wasn't just commitment and costs, but also contributions. And Justice has been among the most dedicated in those contributions in this university. President Paxson named that kind of work, quote unquote, constructive irreverence. I don't know why it's irreverent. In her acknowledgments of student contributions to shaping the university's diversity and inclusion action plan. I like that. But knowing Justice as I have come to appreciate him, through class, tweets, awesome tweeter, and office conversations, I might have to name it instead knowledge activism. Justice, as much as any student I have ever known, has lived a kind of reflexivity, an awareness of how one's own life and the lives of others are structured, and how they might be altered so that the world might be better, more respectful, more diverse, and more inclusive. That is a critical sociology that inspires me and many in your midst, Justice. Thank you so sincerely, and congratulations. Anthony J. Gandolfo. Anthony developed a capstone together with Chris Ogilvie entitled Investments Generation Gap, Old and New Models of Financial Investment, and a Proposal for Their Reconciliation. Sometimes it takes a while to figure the right capstone. Am I right? And sometimes it pays off to do it with a friend. Am I right? And given what they have developed, I think some capstones can pay off in real money sometimes, especially if they find the right investor out there. Okay. Their project explores the broad cultural shift in financial investment as a consequence of 2008's financial crisis, and how the established financial management industry might reach out to the generation of which Anthony and Chris are representative. Not all sociologists are wealth managers. And in fact, I think I might wish that Anthony would take me on as a client someday. I think I need it. But in the meanwhile, I can say that I appreciate so much how Anthony and Chris turned the kind of cultural sociology I know into an approach that makes both the old and new models of financial investment sensible, even to me. Thank you, Anthony, and congratulations. Arohi Kapoor. Arohi will be graduating later this year, but we are very happy to have her walk with us here today. Although we have enjoyed class together, for me, I have had the most extraordinary office hour conversations with Arohi, ranging from various conceptions of religiosity to assessing different methods of social innovation and social entrepreneurship. Arohi is clearly the kind of sociologist who recognizes the public consequence of what we do, the questions we ask, the methods we deploy. She is especially concerned for using those tools, including those enabled by new technologies in film, to figure the best ways not only to document the lives of the poor, but to figure ways to improve their ways of being. For the privilege of her association over these years, she has certainly improved my way of being. Thank you, Arohi, and congratulations. Saskia Morgan. And as you may have heard, her friends call her Kiki, and so will I. Kiki will be graduating later this year as well, but I am so glad that we can celebrate her now. Kiki has focused on racial formation and newspaper coverage, especially around politically critical issues in her capstone work. She has also done extensive work in questions of race, gender, and sports. She is also an athlete and a standout in rugby. She was the MVP of the Ivies, All-American 3 years in a row. She has been in the Olympic development pool, and she's in the pool for the 2017 World Cup squad. I bet you didn't know I knew that. I have not yet had a chance to see her play, but I rely on our common friend, Carrie Heffernan, to characterize her. Kiki is a mensch. a remarkably resilient and talented woman, courageous, always looking forward to beating the odds. I want to be on your team in the long run, Kiki, for you obviously win not only in rugby and sports, but in sociology and in life. Best wishes, and with great thanks for all you have brought to this university, to this department, and to me. Thank you, Kiki. Christopher L. Ogilvy. I've already spoken about Chris this afternoon because he developed with Anthony Gandolfo the project Investments Generation Gap, Old and New Models for Financial Investment, and a proposal for their reconciliation as a capstone. And he is off to Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, to work on private wealth management. Of course, we all enjoy early morning classes, right? But office hour discussions can be the most awesome. One of those most momentous moments took place a couple months ago with these two. Chris and Anthony came in, they were talking about different ideas around financial investing, and then, in a spirit of 30 minutes, we realized in this incredibly dynamic fashion what a really good cultural sociology of a financial investment would be. That's characterized by this opposition based on their interviews, their own experiences, and a survey of Brown undergraduates and how they invest. Consider the difference between the old and new generations around data, around transparency, around costs, and this. When you invest, is it a hobby or is it work? And then I'll tell you how old you are. For me, it's work, and I'm not in their generation. But that's why I need to learn from the young, as I certainly have from these two. Thank you so much, Chris, and congratulations.
It's been a pleasure.
Moran G. Tadisi. Rhode Island Alpha of Phi Beta Kappa, magna cum laude, and a dual concentrator. She received her honors in development studies for her thesis there, entitled First and Still Alone, Depoliticization, Misrecognition, and First-Generation College Student Discourse Within the Ivy League, with Jose Itzikson as her advisor and Diana Graceboard as her reader. Her capstone in sociology was entitled Student Status Identity, an Autoethnographic Reflection. This combination of scholarly products was an extraordinary sociology, reflecting not only on the development of first-generation movement and the first-generation center at Brown, in which Moran played such a central role, but also as a sociological reflection on that project. In this, Moran was able to explain not only what enabled the first-gen movement to achieve so much, but she was also able to identify the costs of that success in the misrecognition of the first-generation student herself. And then, in her capstone, to analyze the functions, contradictions, and effects of thesis writing itself. This might become new required reading for senior seminars in the future. I dare say that I have never had a student exercise in thesis work a greater measure of reflexivity and deep sociological introspection than Moran. Moran bears not only the sociological imagination with distinction, but the sociological soul in all of its weightiness, in all of its aspiration. The sociological professoriate will be fortunate should we manage to recruit you to our numbers in future years. Congratulations, Moran, and thank you. Marcus L. Tippins. That's how I feel, too. Marcus wrote a capstone entitled The Fluidity of Multiracial Individuals' Racial Identities. It was exceptional. Based on interviews with other multiracial brown students, as well as his own reflections, Marcus explores the conditions under which folks come to identify with any of the backgrounds that they might claim. Marcus approached this with a challenging question, but more significant than that, he approached it with the kind of integrity and sincerity that people who know him well will recognize immediately. I have come to appreciate this and admire this enormously about Marcus over the past year. But I've also come to appreciate his punctuality. Every Wednesday morning, Marcus was the first one there. And I don't know whether it was because he wanted first pick and donuts, but I don't think so. I actually think it was because he wanted to help me rearrange the chairs. Because he is a helpful guy filled with integrity and sincerity. And I want to thank him for making our own community just that much more. Thank you. By the way, UCLA is going to be very fortunate because Marcus is going there to law school next year. So, Rudy M. Torres, honors. Rudy wrote, excuse me, the voice is going. Rudy wrote his honors thesis about the centrality of language in the identity formation of Latinxes that don't speak Spanish. That was his honors thesis. I have the honor and privilege to be his advisor, Jose Itzikson, his reader. Because I have not traditionally taught classes in the first and second years, I've only known some of our students for a couple years, but I've known Rudy since his sophomore year. Our first conversations preceded his study abroad, first to Chile, then to Jordan and Nepal. I thought he might write a thesis about those travels, but he returned home to write something deeply personal and profound simultaneously on the ways in which Spanish and lack of Spanish language shape identity formation among Latinx folks. His interviews and autobiographical reflections were profound. But one thing moved me terrifically in the senior seminar in particular. When I asked how people might share the results of their work, Rudy said he would leave it for other students in the Brown Center for Students of Color to pick up and consider as they find moments of reflection in that space. Sometimes we write for fame, sometimes to share the most profound of discoveries with others who seek something similar. Rudy taught me much that day, as he has for the last couple years. I'm not surprised that the Brown Center for Students of Color would have recognized him for his leadership this year. I have only one lament. I have still not heard him sing and play guitar live. And I'm eager for that, and I'm tempted not to let him have his degree until, but we'll do that later. So thank you so much, Rudy, and congratulations. Diane F. Turner. Diane wrote an honors thesis entitled, quote, A Contested Culture, The Roles of Identity, Trauma, and Open Dialogue in the Trigger Warning Dispute. I had the honor and privilege to be that thesis advisor and Carrie Spear and her reader. Her honors will be awarded later following her graduation this summer. Diane is another student I have known since her declaration of love for the sociological imagination after taking Greg Elliott's course. But I celebrate that love for sociology because it was renewed in the conference of all of our senior presenters. That conference, and you can experience it yourself if you'd like to sit and watch all 7 hours. She said, I don't often find myself able to sit still for so long. But I was so inspired by my fellow concentrators' passion for their projects. And I love seeing how the sociological imagination is applicable to so many different interests. We all seem to be really invested in topics that impact us day to day, which had such a strong impact on the way we each went about conducting our scholarly research. Yes, Diane speaks for me, and I hope all of us in that senior seminar. We began a year unknown to each other, at least as a whole. But we finished as a community of those who love our discipline. In fact, I love Diane's thesis. She began the year knowing how she felt about trigger warnings, but finished the year demonstrating how sociology can clarify what lies at the heart of disputes, in this case over the value of trigger warnings. People on all sides can appreciate her work and have. And all of us who believe in the value of rational, critical dialogue can take lessons from its example. I have, and I think all of us have. Thank you so much, Diane. Congratulations. Andrea C. Wistuba Behrens, honors. Andrea wrote an honors thesis entitled Changes in Social and Cultural Capital, an exploration of the transitions and experiences of second-generation college students at Brown University. Greg Elliott was her thesis advisor, and I had the pleasure to be her reader. Andrea's thesis exemplifies some of the best of sociology in being able to see an issue that others cannot. Andrea's thesis was able to help us see something that people at Brown may not recognize. Everyone at Brown recognizes the opportunities and challenges of first-generation students. But not everyone at Brown recognizes the place of second-generation students and the ways in which their challenges are similar and different. Andrea analyzed this extensively, elaborated in brilliant fashion. But the thesis is only typical of the trajectory of learning all her instructors see. Ricky Hammer taught this marvelous course this year, one of our PhD students, on global capitalism. And we were on our way to Kung Fu one day, and she was talking to me about how amazing Andrea was. And she said, it's extraordinary to see her capacity for reflexivity, her awareness, or as she would call it, an awareness of positionality that forces her to approach projects humbly. But the sensitivity and intuition then allows her to succeed. She did embrace the discomfort and lack of familiarity she felt with the material and went through with it to great success. Interestingly, upon sharing her reflections journey regarding the project with other students in class during the final presentation, the other students then said it clicked for them. To recognize challenges, to embrace them, and to communicate to others what you learn, Andrea, with such invitation and compulsion is a great gift and a reflection of your own fine spirit of curiosity and integrity. I'm grateful for that, and I congratulate you. And now we're moving on to the Bachelor of Science in Social Analysis and Research. I'm not tearing up. I'm sweating. But I could tear up. Elise M. Mortensen. Honors, magna cum laude, and Rhode Island Alpha of Phi Beta Kappa. Elise wrote an honors thesis entitled The Privilege of Critical Making, Capital, Whiteness, and Engagement at the Rhode Island School of Design. I had the honor and privilege to be her thesis advisor. Stefano Bloch was her reader. Elise is distinctive among this year's sociology graduates for having been in the joint RISD-Brown 5-year program. She will be graduating in printmaking from RISD next week. But she is also distinctive at RISD, for nobody there has written a thesis that takes the disciplinary dispositions of a Brown degree to analyze RISD's commitment to critical art and design. Beyond that intention, nobody gets a reception that Elise has. RISD's leaders have already been consulting with her about how to extend diversity and meaningful public engagement in the school. But that is, in part, who Elise is. The creative, critical sociologist, an intellectual and artist, both of the first order, and a loyal and dedicated team member as well. Indeed, to recognize the loyalty and dedication Elise has given to this department, she receives today the Service Concentration Prize for her work in many capacities, including as Doug Leader and designer extraordinaire. Just look at most of our recent posters and you'll see why. But it's not just loyalty. It's dedication to how we can otherwise be through a deeper and more critical mutual understanding. One of the anonymous reviewers of her thesis told me this, quote, "I have rarely, if ever, seen an undergraduate with such impressive insight into the dynamics of cultural production and the mechanisms by which racial inequality and various forms of capital are reproduced at both the structural and interpersonal levels. Incredible! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Very well written, incisive critique, impressive use and application of critical theory, very mature, sophisticated, scholarly voice. Could see this being used along with the demands of the protesters she presents at the end as the foundation for a full-fledged reworking of the RISD curriculum a la Ira Magaziner at Brown University." This is the RISD Ira Magaziner, maybe. And if you don't know who that is, talk to somebody older. And she goes on to say, "I found her exposition to be both critical and even-handed, respectful and constructive, but without pulling any punches. A difficult balance to strike for an undergraduate. For the ways in which this thesis and her work contribute to clarity in thinking and mutual respect, Elise also wins the Samuel L.C. Lamport Prize, and I think our applause as well." Thank you so much, Elise. Hannah S. Pulin-Blasnik, honors and magna cum laude. Magna cum laude. I'm thinking about the magnum later. And Hannah is last but far from least. Hannah has written an exceptional thesis entitled "Policing Gentrification, an Exploratory Analysis of Stop and Frisk and Income Disparity in Brooklyn, New York City." Her advisor was Margot Jackson, and her readers Rachel Franklin and Jordan T. Camp. I can't tell you how many times, this is our secret, Hannah came to my office to describe a problem that she was facing, saying, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to figure this out. And then the next day she comes and says, "Oh, well, I figured it out." Every time, for that kind of critical engagement and deep dedication to the best of our discipline, we are awarding Hannah the 2016 Sociological Methods Prize. Being sociologists, we are also aware of how our interaction shapes our judgments of quality. For how much Hannah has contributed to the collective sense of our department, and with her engagement in extending diversity and inclusion across this university, I would be tempted to award her another prize. But awards based on anonymous review are sometimes even better. 3 years ago, I initiated the Alumni Awards Prize. This prize is judged annually by 3 alumni of Brown University who also have a PhD in sociology. The distinction here is that they only know the final product and not the author. This year, Tiffany Joseph of Stony Brook University, Adam Reich of Columbia University, and Darcy Leach of Bradley University, faced the difficult job of deciding which among several outstanding theses merited recognition. Congratulations, Hannah, for winning this year's 2016 Alumni Award for Outstanding Sociology Undergraduate Thesis. Congratulations. And thanks. And that concludes our undergraduates completing their degree. You've already applauded, but I want to hear a much louder round of applause for them all.
Thank you, Michael. Finally, I want to recognize and thank the parents, families, and friends of our graduates for the years of support and the many sacrifices you have made on behalf of the students graduating today. You are very proud of the graduates today, and we would be remiss if we did not also say how this day could never have come without your backing. I ask the students, faculty, and staff to join me in offering our heartfelt thanks for your support. I hope the families and friends of the graduates will stay for at least a while after the ceremony so that the faculty and I can personally congratulate you and the graduates. This concludes the Department of Sociology ceremonies at the 2016 commencement of Brown University. Thank you all for attending this happy occasion. Thank you.